Any problem that a healthcare professional is experiencing is a human problem. Today, I'm really excited to bring on Salina Watson, one of my first friends here that took me in for tacos and transformation when I first got here to Tucson, as she is a coach representing Optavia, as there's a community of health coaches, and she's the CEO of Rose Watson Health. And y'all, I want y'all to really tune into the resonance as in navigating her story of abuse when she was a child and when she was in her lowest of navigating divorce, debt, death of identity, raising 2 young kids, and releasing over 100 pounds, y'all, 100 pounds. Her story brings a different dynamic to Soul Coffee, as I want more and more people to feel more inspired in that you can do it too. And find the resonance of whatever it is that you're walking through, but mainly talking to my healthcare professionals that it's okay to release the guilt. It's okay to release the shame. It's okay to release any preconceived notion or image that you need to be, but just give yourself permission and a softness and discovery of things, and that whatever it is that you're navigating, that you can too. Please bring your energy together for Salina to the show of Soul Coffee. Welcome, sister. It's good to have you.
Woo, what a great introduction. So honored to be here.
Oh, I'm excited. Fun fact, this is her first podcast episode, y'all, but she's a beast. She's helped over thousands of clients navigate their health and reconstructing and building their habits, which our habits make our lifestyle. And sis, I'd love to ask, just to begin with, what have you found to be the biggest thing when it comes to helping someone reconstruct their life with their habits?
Well, I think it started with me being able to walk through that experience so that I can come from a place of understanding firsthand and sympathy and empathy, and be able to give them some tools a little bit at a time.
Let's dive deeper into that story, as we already started to shed some tears, but in the pre-chat, and where is it that you come from as this? You have this massive heart, and it comes from the words "I have to." How'd that form?
Well, finding myself in a situation I never imagined as an adult and having to start my life over in my early 30s, that was something that just popped in my head, and why I shared it with you. I got to a point where I had to do something different. I had to figure out what this life looks like, especially for those 2 little kids. They were 1 and 3 at that point in my life, where I feel like that was really pivotal in figuring out what I want to do with my life, because the alternative was to end it.
And how does one navigate, or how did you navigate from, because I can appreciate, I had to, because it was either this or I'm ending my life.
Yeah.
As you shared, I believe it was pre-Christmas or Christmas Eve, and you were just in that low state of being. How did you pull yourself from that?
I had to realize it needed something bigger than myself, so I leaned into my faith and just prayed that I would have an answer to so many problems. I didn't even know where to start, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there right before Christmas, newly separated, so my kids were with their dad, and I'm drowning my sorrows in a couple bottles of wine, if I'm being honest. And that's where that thought crossed my mind. They'd be better without you. And you've suffered enough. Maybe it's just time to let go.
You said something very important. A lot of people are just so overwhelmed nowadays. You put it, insert provider name here, the weight of their family, the weight of when they go to work, that they're just disconnected or they're exhausted, and they just don't even know where to begin. Yeah. And where did you just take that first step, or how did you begin to crawl out of this hole? What was that first step like?
Well, I figured out I needed to get my body healthy and assumed probably the mind would follow, and it did. But in the moment, I didn't know. So I was like, I'm taking this first step to see what I can do, and had tried a lot of things on my own to get my body to a healthier place, and realized quickly, well, not so quickly, 1 or 2 years later, that I needed help. And I reached out to my coach, who that was the catalyst to everything that we've created from that point on, out of my sheer desperation to change, to be able to become, started dating. So to become the woman that he deserved, because he didn't deserve someone who was living in their victim mindset.
Victim mindset, I think, was something that I spoke on this weekend as I got the chance to be a part of Optavia, and they do a regional coaches meeting. And y'all, the energy was there. It was just so pure. It was just so friendly, but it was just so, what I think was just grounded in principle, really, which is just, you can do this too. And with Optavia, they were in complete alignment as they talk about soul work. And I was like, oh, that sounds like something I'm aligned with. But being able to take care of your body, take care of your finances, and take care of your mind, as the body and mind are not separate. And there can be an intimate dance between the two if one's guiding the other. But once more, it goes back to the power of habit. And as you're navigating, finding, this journey with your body, what did that really like free you up to as you sound? Like, what was your first progress step, or what was your first milestone that you noticed within yourself that you're like, okay, I can do this?
That's a great question. So it was probably a week in on my journey, starting to finally nourish my body well and fuel it to a place that I hadn't before. Eating and drinking my feelings wasn't having me show up as the person I wanted to be, and depression and stuff quickly started to fade, where my body was getting what it needed. So then I had more energy. I started feeling like, okay, I can do this. I can totally do this. And then just continued one step at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time, until that compound effect of small, seemingly insignificant things and choices in my life added up over enough time to big results. As you mentioned earlier, then I lost 100 pounds. And no, we'll say released, because I have no plans on finding those again.
Which is very important. And a lot of people talking like, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to lose this. Why the hell do you want to lose it so you can find it again?
Yeah.
Because words are important. And even another layer, which I think is important too, releasing fat versus releasing just weight in general, because it's okay to put on muscle, but, not to pay attention to the scale, which it wasn't even a mention at this past weekend, which I liked, because you're putting the emphasis on building the platform for people to stand on. And when it comes to your clients, what do you think is a big strategy or something that's important to help pull people into that first step?
It's really awakening them to their goals, their desires. A lot of people float through life and they're never asked the question, what do you want? Like, what do you really want? What intrinsically motivates you? So pulling that out and becoming a master of being able to awaken people well, that was probably the key to that first step for them.
That's very important for our listeners. What's something that you want to experience, whether it be with your health or with life, and how can you recognize what is your first step? What is your first milestone? What's your first checkpoint? If this life is a game, what's a sign for yourself that you can appreciate? Hey, I'm making progress. Progress is a keystone to happiness in this human construct and reality and experience. And if you're not setting these milestones for yourself, well, then you'll just lay in this river that's just going to lead to just continue more and more floating. And then we talked about this in the past, but, then what are you floating towards? It's potentially towards more dis-ease or more sickness. And if you're not constructing where your river's flowing, well, then your river's just going to flow to stagnancy and to that state of destruction.
So good.
And as you see your people progress, as we're going on a little journey, as you see your people progress, what do you see shifts within them?
Their mindset. And that's my favorite. For somebody to really realize that they can do something to change their life pretty dramatically, and to continue to support them in a way that allows them to just take it one thing at a time. So when we're looking at health holistically, if somebody's coming to me wanting to get to a healthier place weight-wise, we're going to focus first on what they're eating and drinking, and then, their mindset along the way. So layering some of this journal for the journey that we use so that they can get really introspective, because through that awareness of where we're getting stuck, we can apply the information that we either already know or that they're learning along the way.
I love the invitation for introspective, reflection. I talk about reflection, and for for someone to increase the awareness of what's going on internally, I think that's the real juice.
Yeah.
Like with chiropractic, same thing. We tell our people at the source, we want you to become more sensitive and aware and inspired of what's going on within your body. And as you're able to clear this windshield, as you're able to take inventory, your external environment will reflect a change because you'll be able to navigate with more clarity, with more certainty, and more importantly, with more awareness.
Right.
This is good. What do you feel? Because the concept of the internal prison, people throw themselves in their prison and they allow themselves to stay there, and whether they become a product of their environment and or their circumstances, or Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, you're a product, or you got to shed the fact that you're your body or your circumstances, or that your environment and time. And when it comes to helping people find the key or find whatever through whatever it takes, what have you noticed in helping so many people? What's the key for people to free themselves?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, it starts with what we're thinking, what we've experienced in the past, and maybe needing to take that extra step to heal some of those areas. Especially like firsthand for me, it was trauma, trying to overcome some of the things I didn't even realize were showing up subconsciously, and just how I was approaching life, and how I would show up for myself or not, if that makes any sense. So learning how to unprogram what we've learned in an unhealthy way, with unhealthy circumstances, with a brutal start through my childhood. You don't know what you don't know. So until you're on the other side of it, to really be able to start to heal some of that stuff, I think that's what's key. It always starts with what we have going on in our mind, what our thoughts are, what we're saying to and about ourselves, and really getting crystal clear on what it is that they want to accomplish. Because if, like you said, if we don't have a goal, we're just floating along in life. And I think that's where a lot of people live, is just that survival mode and going through the motions.
And I've been reading Waking the Tiger, super fire, and understanding trauma and how it plays out. But our bodies are unconscious mind. So it makes sense, quite literally, if there's more fat tissue, there's more cells, there's more to this body that's unconscious, or that got there through unconscious programming, and then it's cycling. Well, then, of course, there's going to be more and more of that until you're able to stand in the river, stand in the water, and understand what's led to this expression of you. Examine that, whether it's an understanding or an increased awareness of trauma, increased awareness of the habits once more, because then you're now becoming more the master of your body. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, and being able to not be a slave to the body, but instead have that be a co-collaboration, because you're able to nourish it in a way that's good, you're then taking it to where the mind wants to go. But if you don't ever take care of your mind, well, then of course the body is just gonna be like, all right, yeah, let's keep just doing what you're doing, because it's just trying to be there for survival.
Right.
These prisons, this is good. The prisons that we put ourselves in is because they're comfortable. The comfortable prisons, like, oh, let me go hide in that bottle. Let me go hide in that bag of chips. Let me go hide in, football, or let me hide in these. I mentioned football because it's football season. These distractions. Yeah. Because then I don't ever have to deal with things. But then you wake up the next day and your mind is still in the same product of all that has happened, because nothing has shifted in your energy. Nothing has shifted in, where you want to go. So of course, we're just going to keep replaying things.
Right. Yeah, I found that people won't push themselves most of the time to the uncomfortable that's necessary to create change. So when it's easy to keep going through the motions of whatever's got them to the point where they are in their life, it's easier sometimes than the uncomfortable or the unknown. So it's always scary to take that first step. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's so good, because I was just getting charged up this morning. Because the unknown is scary for people. Yeah. What if the unknown is magical? What if if you set the vision for someone with their health, what do you want to heal, or what would be an amazing healing result? I imagine, what do you want to experience with your health? Yeah. A lot of people do the thing, they're like, I don't know. Yeah. No one's ever asked me yet. Well, cool. So now that we're able to be in this space, how can we set the grandest? How can we set the most beautiful journey? How can we set up this beautiful mountaintop or this destination where we want to go that's coated in this energy and these habits? I think something that came in with me and Lou the other night, it's like your habits or your rituals are the oxygen or the ingredients to manifest your life.
That's so good.
Nice. And it makes sense because then if you're able to then do the things that are in alignment with where you want to be, well, then it's just a matter of time. Things are just going to catch up. And that's been a focus for me this last week. It's like, what are the rituals that I need to do so that way I can keep being and keep doing the things that I need to do? And it's nice because then everything falls away. I'm less anxious. I'm more focused, and I have more availability or more access to then the Jamal that I want to step into versus who I was.
That's so good.
And it's so important because then as a coach, you're like, come this way. And I think that there's, like, we've had Michael Tucker, who's a life coach as well, or life coach, excuse me. And coaches are so important, I think, right now, because everyone needs a coach.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, why not? Why not have someone that can keep you accountable or keep you in alignment with where you want to be with your health and things? As that's so, so important, because what would have it looked like if, you know, we're all trying to nourish the younger versions of ourselves that could have used somebody to help us through, which makes sense. That's why you're so grand in how you're moving, because I imagine you're moving with that energy of coaching little Salina.
Oh, yeah. It starts there because we've got to figure out what we want. And unless you're going to ask yourself, if you haven't been asked that question before, what do you want? And why do you want it? Because that's really going to be the driving force. And when it's a superficial question, when I ask that question to a potential client, I'll ask again, but why is that important to you? Until we get to the really deep stuff of like tears, usually, of like, okay, yeah. So it wasn't the superficial answer. It was something deeper. And it usually involves the things that matter most to them in their life, their family, what they can do, maybe what they used to be able to do that they can't do anymore, that they love. And really having them feel that. How did that feel different? What would that feel? How would that impact your life if you were to feel that feeling again?
How would that impact your life if you were to feel that feeling every day?
Right.
It's not just a flicker or a glimmer. This life can be something really, really beautiful. And you can construct your habits and your actions around that, which can then allow for the re-experiencing of that. And I think as people experience that, well, then of course they're going to have more happiness, have more joy, have more gratitude, have more fulfillment, because they're able to actually do things. And I think as healthcare professionals, we can reductionize, or we can, you know, just get so narrow on, like, I got to manage this symptom, versus help this human heal, help this human thrive, help this human experience more things. So that's why as alternative healthcare practitioners, which makes me just fucking laugh, I was like, we're actually helping then fix the chronicity, or shift the chronicity of why people are experiencing things. And it's just amazing how clear this is, simple this can be. It's like, where do you want to go? But you got to take care of and analyze, you know, where have you been? Then you in the middle, where you're at right now. But focus on this and stay consistent with this, versus the lack of paying attention to why you're experiencing what you're experiencing will then perpetuate or allow for the re-experiencing of then the life that you don't want to experience.
Right.
Ooh. This is good. One other thing that I think is very important, as we covered habits, we covered mindset, we covered, you know, the I have to, and, you know, one thing that's come up in the past as shedding guilt, shame, and judgment. And one thing that I think is important is, you know, how did you navigate the death of an identity? Because something that's important, there's, I think, even like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, divorce rates are over half, or 50% of married couples were getting divorced. And, you know, I've been around, my parents are still together, which I'm grateful for. And, but I've had a lot of friends that have had, you know, parents that have split. And I think in that there's a lot of people that can find an identity in their relationship. Like, they're like, I'm a good person if I stay in this relationship, or I'm a bad person if we end up splitting. You know, what were some of your thoughts, or what did you experience as you were trying to navigate this death of an identity?
That's so good. So there was value tied to that identity, to my marriage. This represented creating a new life for me. So coming from a broken home with poverty and trauma and divorce and abuse and all of those things that brought me to who I was today, I felt like this marriage to somebody who's stable, who's now looking back, not very loving, a bit of a narcissist, if we're talking to, honestly.
Yeah, speak straight up, sis.
But with, he embodied everything that I wanted that I didn't have the opportunity to have because of my upbringing. So I waited until I was later in life than most of my friends to get married because I really only wanted to do it once. I was 28 years old. Everybody else got married in their early 20s that I hung out with.
Sure.
And having kids and things like that. So I really wanted to make sure that I chose correctly. But I overlooked some of the things that became a challenge later with the inability to love, like a genuine agape love for somebody. It's just not something he's capable of. And I don't fault him for that. It could be summarized from his experiences in life and things like that too. But for me, marrying him was changing the course of that, to be able to create the family that I never had, to have my children, and then overnight to have that taken from me and having to move on from it. How do you figure out who you are at that point? Because everything was that. That was what I had been working so hard to accomplish. And then here I am with nothing. So that left me very broken. But it also taught me a lesson to not put my value as a person in something else, something from the outside, something in another person, in a marriage, because that's not where it needs to come from. It has to come from within.
I think that's just something that's just not taught.
Yeah.
Like, as we're in our current forums, of course, I'm like, fuck, man, why didn't they teach us this shit in school?
They should.
Right? Simple. Your value is internal. And until you value what's internal, anything external from you will just not suffice. That's just an outside-in mentality. Again, with philosophy and health.
Right.
That's why principles. It's like health comes from within. Value comes from within. Love comes from within. And if that isn't cultivated within, well, then, of course, you're going to be looking outside for any food, drink, person, relationship, escape, social media, distraction, whatever it is. But it is until you're able, and of course, some people get compressed, or you experience a massive impulse, but now you have the opportunity with your awareness and the work that you've fucking done to be able to transmute that shit. So that's why with people, it's like, until you examine and you get really clear what life has dealt you, like you said in the pre-chat, you don't have to have that fucking hand.
Yeah.
You can put that shit back, get some new cards. Like, you don't have to stay with the cards that you were dealt. Look at them and be like, you know what? This is no longer serving me. I can't do shit with this anymore. Let me appreciate what was given to me. Okay. And then do my best with that. And now when you're able to have a coach like Salina, have someone that cheers you on, have a healthcare professional that sees the good within you, and free of the verbiage, which is very important. Like, a lot of people come to me like, oh, fix me, doc. I'm sure to say, fix me, Salina. But it's like, first of all, there's nothing to fix. I was like, we just simply need to re-examine what's not working and shed this is my bad knee, shed this is my crap, whatever it is. It's like, nah, that's your beautiful knee. That's your great knee that helped get you this far. But what's more, we got to re-examine what the hell you've done, so that way we can then appreciate where you want to go, or take this new deck of cards and, oh, look, we got an ace. Ooh, we got some kings and queens in here. Okay, this is good. I can do something with this. But you always could.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, part of my role in this life is to show people from experience that they don't have to live the life that they came from. They aren't where they came from. Their value is not tied to where they grew up. Excuse me. But like, if I were to say that and to use those words. Like, I am a girl that grew up in a trailer, in a very broken down trailer park. We had no money. Sometimes we didn't have electricity. And, you know, if I showed up talking to myself, even internally, or even conveying that message that that's who I am and my value is tied to that, that's where I'm going to be stuck. And that's where I lived, even in my early adulthood, not realizing it on a subconscious level, but that's where my value is tied from some of those outside things. But to be able to show people that your value comes from within, it's not that you're bad or you're bad at this, you just need more practice, or maybe we're going to have a different strategy.
Yeah, go a little bit deeper with that, as a lot of people may not be able to relate to the struggle, or like, you know, what is it like to not be able to have electricity or these different things? Like, how is it? How does that form you?
It's hard to even put words to, because it's something that so many people haven't experienced, like one or two of the things that I've lived. So the combination of being beaten by my father, of not having protection from my mom, these are all things that I didn't realize were affecting me as an adult, because I didn't have them. And again, that, like, you don't know what you don't know. So until you create that for yourself, you're never going to experience it. And there's a grieving period of the part where you have to let go of the fact that you were robbed of the opportunity to have, I thought I could hold it together, to have the life you deserve, but to have that constant beatdown over and over and over through my adulthood. I really needed somebody to believe in me enough to say, you matter, and show me how to do different. And for me, that was my coach, who, she didn't know she was changing my life, but literally took my hand and said, you matter, and your goals matter, and we're going to figure out what that looks like together, even if you've never thought of any goal, and you've literally lived your life swimming upstream, trying to figure it out. A lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of damage that I had done to myself, putting myself in dangerous situations, just because literally I had nobody showing me how to be a normal person.
It's so important, the work that you're doing, to be that one that's grabbing someone's hand. Because when you're in a state of survival, or I imagine when you're in that state of survival, all you had was you. And I could just appreciate deeper, you know, I got to figure out, because so many people could, they end it. Yeah. Life becomes too overwhelming to where they're just, whatever this is, I just got to escape, or I just got to abort this. I got to end this. And I think that that's something in this country, that's this pinnacle. I think it's falling, but it's the pinnacle, the American dream and all these things. But people don't talk about or bring awareness to how it can be a nightmare of sorts still, even though this is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. This is one of the sickest countries of the world. And if we don't examine our mental health and how to navigate from this place of abuse, or navigate from this place of it's only me, or navigate from any of this capacity, it's super important to be able to strengthen our resolve and strengthen our will. Because without that hand, things can be just so dark.
It's true, because I think I've shared with you before, my path was literally death or prison. So when you look at the trajectory of my family tree, I am the black sheep, if you will, because up until this year, 3 of my 4 siblings were in prison. 2 of them got out this year, one's still in there. My dad died of a heroin overdose at the age of 44. Like, that was the hand I was dealt. That was the path that was laid out for me. So really pushing to be able to find another path. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy, but I have to.
Mm. And I've heard that so many times. I mean, being a black male, like a lot of my friends are like, man, I didn't think I'd be here. Mm. I didn't know that I'd make it this age. And I think people burn a lot of life. So they burn a lot of life or burn life from two wicks, or the two sides of the candle, just living unsustainably, and how to navigate. It's either death or prison, and how important that is to, like, that's very important, because that's a reality for a lot of people, or people that are out there. And if you could put one thing to what helped you drive to navigate that better, what would it be?
I think it was so many different moving pieces that I can't really put my finger on one, like, oh, this was the pivotal moment that, I was able to get everything in alignment. But I think if I were to just pick one word, it would be awareness. To become more aware of where I am, where I came from, where I'm getting stuck, and why I keep repeating the behaviors that I've done over and over and over. It was to survive. So when I got to a point that I no longer needed to do that, it wasn't serving me well anymore, because I'm no longer in survival mode, and I can look at different ways to thrive in this world instead. That was all just starting through that self-awareness. Because if we don't have a starting point of where we are, we could have all the maps in the world. If we don't know where we're going, we're just like driving without any direction.
One, I love that you said there's too many pieces. I picture chess. There's so many fucking pieces. They all have their unique things. But when there's so many factors navigating, I love that you coming back to, what's internal? Because another thing, when you have so many maps, you can have all fucking maps in the world, but where do you want to go? Where are you? Like, where are you? Like, where am I? Like, where's the ground underneath my feet? Like, where's the water? I'm thirsty. And when you're able to hydrate yourself, and then plant your feet in the soil of where you are and where you want to go, you can put yourself in like a garden, or put yourself in an environment. How did your environment change, or, what shifted when you started this journey with your coach? Like, how did your external environment change versus where you were?
Right. Well, I think it started with who I was hanging out with. I had to let go, and again, another grieving process of letting go of the friendships and relationships that no longer served me. That was really hard, to start over and figure out who the fuck am I? Who do I want to be? Because I need to hang out with the people who are doing what I want to do, to people that are showing up in this world with the energy that I want, so that I can become that. But if I keep putting myself in a room where I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm not going to grow.
How does one grieve? Or how did you grieve the transition of friends? How did you grieve your father's passing? How did you grieve where little Salina was in processing what she didn't have?
Not well.
Oh, well.
Not well. I made a lot of mistakes, like I had mentioned before. So trying to fill that void in my soul with all the wrong things. So struggled with drugs and alcohol early on, not valuing myself, and, promiscuity, things like that. Trying to fill that very big hole with something. And sometimes it was to feel nothing. So a lot of numbing, a lot of drinking. So I will share with you, I haven't had a sip of alcohol since my anniversary this last May 22nd. So it's been 112 days.
Let's go!
But it no longer serves me.
That's important, I think. And I appreciate. Well, one thing you were doing to grieve, you were moving. Yeah, you're taking an action.
Yeah.
So you're trying. Because I don't think, maybe there's not a right way, quote unquote, to grieve. As you're trying to fill that void. I think that's what a lot of people try to do when trauma happens, because the body doesn't know. It's like it's stuck, and there is that void. There is that then reoccurring feeling of sadness, depression, anger, whatever it is, and people don't know how to sit with that. So instead, the other actions come and fill. Because same, I was sexually abused when I was younger, and that played out to a lot of repressed anger until it started to just really, really come out. And there was a lot of hate towards myself, and trying to judgment of myself. And once more, just visiting what I want to applaud you for is just trying.
Yeah, I had no choice. Especially once I had kids, man, I was looking at them going, I am not going to repeat this fucking cycle. They deserve better. And it's up to me to change it.
Kids, because I'm learning as more and more of my friends have kids, they can be the biggest invitation to shift something. So I love the ownership, and I will challenge us. Like, a lot of people see that fuck it. You saw that you made the decision to not have a decision. Like, you made the choice to not have a choice. Like, I'm doing better because I just brought in these two beautiful children, and something needs to shift so that way they don't need to re-experience that. And I just want to applaud you for making that decision, because I think a lot of people can get stuck in the breaking of their will, or the acceptance, or the surrender of just what is, and then they just keep floating down that river some more.
I was tired of the river. Get me out of this river. Someone pull me out. And literally that was my lifeline, was my coach reaching out and pulling me out of that river so that I could figure out another way. I was drowning. Like, I really had a desire for more, but I didn't know what that looked like.
Because in drowning, you're starving of oxygen. Right, literally. And when someone's able to, I love that image, like send you like a floaty, or some water wings, or something, so that way you can breathe. Another quote when I was in South Africa that I heard from a chiropractor, and what he offered was, goals are the oxygen to your dreams. So similar to the rituals, because then the rituals are then a stair step to then your goals or your milestones, but it gives you like a footing. Or so whether it's someone reaching out your hand or something to you for you to then, oh, okay, this is how you figure this thing out. Oh, okay, this is how I float. Oh, okay, this is good. Or to then get out of the river and then jump into the ocean of possibility, of potentiality, of fucking fun, of life can be great. But you need to be able to understand the river that you were floating in to begin with.
So good. And life can be great, but life can be a beatdown too.
Yeah.
So if you focus on the beatdown, guess what comes? More beatdown. If you focus on the things that are bringing you joy, even if it's barely anything, if you can hold on to that, that's going to be a catalyst for what's to come next.
Because in whatever you're doing to experience that joy, or that experience, that emotions are fleeting. They're supposed to be an ebb and flow, because life is going to fucking crush you. But due to your expanded capacity, your expanded bandwidth, the integration of your lessons, the punches can become less, or it's more so that you're just becoming stronger to be able to hold more life, and then still be able to choose happiness, gratitude, joy, fulfillment, whatever it is that people want to experience.
So true. And if we just float through without putting guardrails, and I look at it as my habits being the guardrails that keep me moving in the direction that I want to go, even when life continues to be a throat punch here, kick you while you're down here. It gives me the tools to be able to bounce back faster, so that I can recognize I'm falling back into old behavior patterns and I don't like it. And I've gotten, with more practice, better at checking myself before I go back to my old ways and resetting that course.
I always think guardrails like bowling when you're younger.
Yeah.
And deliberately throwing the ball at the rail so it bounced off the rail. It's like life can throw you against the rail and you're like, oh my God.
You'll bounce around a little bit, but you've got something to keep you moving in the direction that you want to go.
Because it's still it's still progress. Oh, that's good. Good play with analogies, sis. Ooh, that's good. Oh. I'm feeling really complete, or feeling really nourished and full, yet I still just have the thought, there's 230 million adults that are overweight, obese. There's 40 million kids under 5 that are overweight or obese. It can seem like there's this ocean or river that we can be drowning as a society. What would you offer to anyone that is either A, overweight or obese and just feels overwhelmed or paralyzed, or even, you know, the healthcare provider that just feels like they're just throwing a freaking pebble in the ocean. Like there's that whole like starfish like in the ocean. It's just saving one. But, you know, what would you offer for anybody that just feels like they're just drowning in what seems like an inevitable ocean and sea of just sickness, disease, and just they can't do it?
To allow themselves to feel that, what brought them there, and why they want that change, and to make the decision in that moment to do different. Because if you recognize that you're not loving where you are, but you keep doing what's gotten you to that point, that's the recipe for disaster. So the first step I would encourage anyone who's listening is to make that decision to do something different.
I think that's just nice and simple. Just do one thing that's just different.
One thing.
And look to see if that shit worked. Look around, look within, see what shifted, what you felt. Ooh, because as you do something different, there can be like a spark within you.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that spark. And then add more kindling to it, which is like do another different thing or keep doing that one thing and reach out.
Yeah. Reach out for help. We were not put on this earth to do life alone. We thrive in community. We thrive in relationship. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is trying to isolate and to do this sometimes hard life alone.
Why do you think that is, that people would try to isolate themselves?
Shame. It was for me anyway. Shame. I didn't want people to know what I was going through because I felt weak. I've gotten really good at sharing my story, so I can empower people in the way of like, you are not alone. You are not the only person going through this, and we support you. I see you. It's just to be heard and felt, you know, you feel like somebody actually cares. So I like to try and recognize when people are struggling and let them know I see you.
Yeah, so many people I think are just scared to be seen. So it's like, and because when you say that, it's like boom, like it's like I see you for like all that you be.
Well, for the longest time, I wanted to be invisible. I didn't want anyone to see me. I wanted to hide in the things that I had done that I didn't feel good about, in all the mistakes, all the failures. So yeah, hiding. I get that. I didn't want to be seen.
I think of like a lot of people don't want to be seen, or they're just begging to be seen, or somewhere in the middle. But I think that a lot of humans default to one or the other. So when you have someone that's powerful, that's integrated, that's been through something similar, just has been through something painful, and is made on the other side, to be able to say, I see you. Yeah. It penetrates. That's so important, because I think as human beings, we are meant to see each other.
And a lot of people aren't seen because they're just going through the motions.
They're lost in the river, or they're drowning. Oh. Yeah, you really took that analogy to a whole nother level, which I'm pumped about. I love it.
Nice.
Oh, nice. So, sister, how can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms, so you can always reach out there. Of course, you can call. Are you going to share my information?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Call or email anytime. I love what I do, so never a bother. If anyone has questions, I'm here just to have a conversation and see, you know, what could it look like for you? What do you want? Why do you want it? I love those conversations. So, yeah.
So good. I'll be dropping Salina's information, her link tree, and always you can reach out to her in these show notes. So stay tuned for that. And you know, is there anything else that you'd really just like to impart to our people in this time and reality?
I get the final words, huh?
Oh, of course.
Don't give up. Just keep going. Because in that moment where we feel like we want to give up, if I had given up at that time where that voice in my head said, take your life, I wouldn't have experienced any of what came after. And that was worth all of the pain.
Oh. I just think of Viktor Frankl. a man's search for meaning. It's like when a man understands like why he can endure anyhow. And your why literally birthed in your kids to pull you further and pull you deeper, really. I can't applaud you enough and thank you enough for, just really leaning in and discovering that and being just a shining light and example and so much love, and that other people can do it too. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, it's been good. I got one final question for you. If you were to describe your flavor or your process that is your brand of soul coffee, how would you describe it?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I guess my goal and purpose in this life is to help people see that they do have value and to be able to live a life of their desire and to pull that out of them.
I hear a very desired blend. Yeah, a very delicious blend.
But when you talk coffee, man, I don't know. I love all of it.
Yeah, it's good. Well, y'all, thank you for tuning into another episode of Soul Coffee. Please reach out to Salina and, just really give yourself permission to sit with all the medicine as my head's spinning, in this. And, that there's some, I think, just basic things that you can just do. Just take that next step. And feel free to share it with either of us. Like share, what shifted for you. Share, what's your one thing. And happily, I'll toss you some waterings. We'll toss you some water rings, a floaty, whatever it is that you need. But just keep going in life so that way you can then step out of that river and step into the abundance that is the ocean, that is your life, and that what it can be, y'all. So keep swimming. You're loved. You're appreciated. Until next time. Peace.